start again. Always say side,
Okay.
say lobe, say segment. So I'm going to start on the right. Below his clavicle and above his fourth intercostal space is going to be his right upper lobe. And there are 3 segments in it. You remember the segments?
Apical, anterior.
So, if you wanted to listen to the anterior segment, go to the fourth intercostal space, put your stethoscope just above it. If you want to hear the apical segment, go to his clavicle, go just below it. And if you want to hear the posterior segment, you got to go back there. We'll get there. So, from his fourth to his sixth, find his xiphoid. Find his sternal angle, count down. Between the fourth and sixth, you're going to have, say the side, say the lobe, say the segment.
Right medial.
Right middle lobe.
Medial.
Lateral.
So medial would be on this side of the sternum. Lateral would be at his anterior axillary line, just on this side of it, between the fourth and sixth. On this side, you don't have the horizontal fissure, but if you were to imagine it was there, everything above it would be the left upper lobe. How many segments are in the left upper lobe? 2. What are they called?
Anterior, posterior, and anterior.
Apical posterior and anterior. So similarly, if you want to listen to the anterior segment, go just above the fourth, put your stethoscope. If I want to get his apical posterior, I can get it here as well as here. Go just below his clavicle. So we're good so far. We just did upper lobe. Middle lobe, we talked about, was medial and lateral, yeah? So for analogous to the middle lobe is the left upper lobe's lingula. Because remember, there's no fissure here. It's not separating the upper lobe from the middle lobe, right? The cardiac notch is going to extend all the way to about here. So from his anterior axillary line to maybe an inch or so over is where his lingula is going to be. The lingula has 2 segments, just like the middle lobe, but they're not medial and lateral. Superior and inferior. And my suggestion is this is going to cover both.
Okay.
You cannot distinguish between the 2 unless you got a really big individual. Okay? So we're good so far?
Yeah.
So now, anteriorly, I can listen to one more area. So if I find his anterior axillary line and his mid-axillary line, between his 5th and 6th rib, I'm going to be able to go from his anterior axillary line to his mid-axillary line and put my stethoscope there. What am I going to be listening to? Say the side, say the lobe, say the segment.
The right middle lobe.
Hold on. If this is my fissure line here, right, and this is the bottom of the rib, my oblique fissure is coming right here.
Isn't that the lateral segment?
That,
the middle lobe?
that would be the, if my fissure line is here, that's separating my middle lobe and my lower lobe here.
Oh.
So it can't be the middle lobe. It's got to be the lower lobe. So it's the right lower lobe. And if I'm looking at the anterior segment, the anterior aspect of the body. So if I go this way just a little bit, then I'm going to be on the lateral segment. But if I'm from his anterior axillary line to his mid-axillary line, that would be the right lower lobe, anterior segment. The same thing over here is applicable. From his anterior axillary line to his mid-axillary line between the 5th and 6th is the left lower lobe, anterior segment. Everybody good? Mm-hmm. Yep, turn. So, if again, you're not drawing on your patients, what I would do is find where T2 is, okay? Find his C7, bend your head forward, okay? The most prominent, count down. So when I said that the line traverses from T2 to T4, I'm saying it starts at T2 and then it descends down like this. So everything above that line would be, say the side, say the lobe, say the segment.
The right superior lobe.
There's no
Upper
superior lobe. There you go. Right upper lobe. How many segments did we say it had? Did we say it has?
2.
It does not. It is 3.
Oh, is that the other side?
That's the other side. So we already
Oh,
found
this is the posterior.
this is the posterior segment of the right upper lobe.
There's apical, anterior, posterior.
And we already heard apical and anterior over here. Good. Now, technically, this is kind of part of the apical as well if you really want to get crazy, but let's not do that. Above my fissure is going to be the posterior segment of the right upper lobe. Below my fissure, so far, we've listened to the anterior segment. So how many are left? So they're named for where they are. So
Middle.
say segment, say side, say lobe, say segment. So
The
right,
lower lobe.
yep. What segment?
Posterior.
Well, there's 2 back here. One's superior, one's posterior. Hold on. There's one superior and one posterior. So where do you think superior is? It's named for where it is. Superior. Now, how do I know how far I can go down? Well, the right lung goes down to between T10 and T12. So you can rest your arm, poke on him, and find his inferior angle. That should be at about T7 on most people. Count down, or find his iliac crest and count up. Posterior segment. So in the right lower lobe, you've listened to the superior, you listened to the posterior. Remember, we listened to anterior? So what's left?
For lateral.
How far does the lung descend in the lateral aspect?
Lower than T8. Oh, rib 8.
Rib 8. So what I would suggest, turn to me, put your arm up on my shoulder, find his xiphoid process, come across, and then count down. So
From
his
6.
from 6.
Oh, sorry.
That's good. From 6 to 8. That's in the mid-axillary line is where his lateral segment of his lower lobe is going to be. So you just listen to all 4 segments of his lower lobe. Turn back around. The same thing is applicable on his left. The only thing that's different is it doesn't go down quite as far. So whoever drew this,
Just a T10, right?
this should be up here. T10 to T12, T10 over here. So this should come up a little bit. But everything else is the same. Superior, posterior, lateral, anterior. What's different back here? How many segments are in the left upper lobe?
2.
So what's back here?
Posterior.
Apical posterior. Apical posterior and anterior. That's all of them.
How would you test it like on the joints? Is it